Hello and welcome back to That Old Shop. My name is Mike Scott and today we're taking a look at a bench center. It's a Brown and Sharpe. This is a 36-inch by, it's got a 24-inch swing. Has 8-inch riser blocks on it here. So these top parts here with the centers can be taken off the risers. The risers can be totally removed and these can be put down on the dovetail. The center part here is for mounting an indicator on, and this is used for checking parts. You can straighten some shafts, some thinner shafts. You don't want to do a lot of pounding on something like this because it's an inspection piece of equipment. But it's a Brown and Sharpe as it says here. It has a shop tag, I think it's 224. It's in need of some cleanup. It's got several layers of paint on it. Needs the knobs cleaned up. Needs some washers made here, the correct washers. And I'll wheel you around to the other side and show you that before I start dismantling it. This is going to be a project that's going to take me several days. So this is the back side of it. There's another tag or maybe a possibly cast in raised area here that says Brown and Sharpe Manufacturing Company, Pro Device something or other. Can't quite tell what that is. What I'm going to do is, so many layers of paint on there, that's why it's not readable. I'm going to take a flat file here and file off the high sparks of the paint and see if I can get a good reading on what that says. It's going to all get cleaned up regardless, but just want to see what it says before I dig into it that far. So I'll get you in closer here. Okay, so here's the back side. It's got the lettering that's all painted over. See if I can't clear it up some. This will help get all the letters the same height. So if I want to dab on a different colored paint to make it pop right on the lettering, that'll make that easier. The tops of letters will be even height and they'll be flat or flatter. So it says Brown and Sharpe Manufacturing Company, Pro. Nope, that looks like it's going to be a city, Rhode Island. Oh, it's probably Providence. So I've done some research on Brown and Sharpe. I gotta figure that out before doing this. Yep, Providence, Rhode Island, USA. All right, so I'll file on this some more and get it back to some reasonable, legible height. So it'll look pretty when I'm all done. All right, I think I'll do more of that outside so I have better light. But I'll wheel you around, give you a close-up of the front side now. Should be able to make out on the front side here that the larger lettering on this side, Brown and Sharpe, is flat. It's very flat. So I imagine that was a different color to make their name pop. So that'll be easy to touch that up with some different colored paint. Probably black. I'll probably do green on the body and black on the lettering. Unless I change my mind in between now and then. Not sure if this tag, shop tag is going to stay on there or not. It's got some slots already in the, I think are drive screws. Okay, back around the front side here. This thing is very heavy as an assembly. It's all cast. So I'm going to take it apart, take the parts outside, and take the angle grinder with a cut brush, wire brush to it, get most of the paint off, and see what I got. But I lowered the Big Joe down. I have it on the Big Joe so I can get it to a working height and filming height and all that. But this plate is pretty slippery, so I had to put some clamps on there to keep it from sliding off on me, because it's 3 toes, 3 points. So it's just level. It's got 1 toe under here. It's all relieved under this side. It just got a center. I'm not sure if it's round or square. We'll get to that when I flip it over during the cleanup. And it has 2 toes over here. Just like many machines, it helps it to sit flat or to sit level on whatever surface it is. If the surface is uneven, you don't tend to have that rocking like you would with 4 toes or 4 feet or 4 legs, however you want to say it. These are tightened up here, loosen up as well. This side was a little difficult to get on there. I had it all apart and I decided to do a video on it, so quickly slid things back on there. Okay, that's the 4 major pieces. Let's get to cleaning. Put Big Joe down here. Get in a better position to head out the door. Got a little stone or something I just rolled over. Put the brake on. Get it down the waist tight. Okay, and that's where we gotta go. Gonna go out that door. Do the cleaning up out there. Didn't show you before, but so to get your shaft in there when it's all put together, it's got a lever here. It's spring loaded, so you can move this center out of the way, put your piece in there, let that go. We'll cover more of that when I get her back together, show you all the functions. Some seahorses, as my daughter said when she was younger once, called sawhorses seahorses. Some seahorses to put the base on outside. Okay, so now we can see that it is in fact 3 toes. It's a pretty big toe over here. It's kind of an odd rough shape. I'll probably square that up, I guess, make it look a little prettier. These look okay. But that's what it looks like underneath. Let's get to clean. I try to do a lot of my dirty work outside. This cabinet is just an old electrical cabinet. I have most of my angle grinders in there. Outlet right out here, vices, bench, all that. For small parts, the larger pieces. That way I can install it. So I'll get that hooked up and get to work here. Some little improvements in here recently. I had these hooks. I don't know if you can see those hooks in the video, but trying to hold the cords up, make it a little neater. So it's kind of getting carried away there. So I got two grinders here. One's a Hitachi, so the green almost matches, but that's got a cup wheel on it. And I got a Makita with a straight wheel on it. Plugged into a three-way. I don't always like these because soon after you start using it, one of the plugs doesn't work anymore. But so far, I've been getting along with this one. I think the center one usually goes first. But that way I can just set one tool down, pick it up, and I don't think plug in and unplug stuff. Here we go. I'm not going to make you listen to all that racket with me grinding on that base there. It gets pretty obnoxious. Basically, I'm cleaning up the bottom, getting all the crud off. There was a little grease on the bottom. These bench centers have the option of going on a cast iron stand made just for them by Brown and Sharpe. This one, of course, didn't have that. So I'm cleaning up the three toes or the feet, however you want to call them. I sometimes use a dust mask, or wear a dust mask when I'm doing this, but it was outside and it was such a breezy day. The breeze was really taking a lot of the dust, most of the dust just away from me there, so I wasn't that concerned with it. There wasn't much paint inside the cavities on the bottom, just on the very end cavities, those short cavities you see on either end. There was some paint in there. That might be one of the harder areas to try to get the corners cleaned out. I'll probably get in there with a three-sided scraper and scrape the corners out. Don't have my big sandblaster anymore. I got rid of that because I'm getting ready to move, so I'm downsizing some of my shop equipment. Some of my shop machines I had to let go too. This one is just a project that's been hanging on, and so I'm going to get it ready to pass on. Get it cleaned up, get all the old paint off it, get a fresh coat of paint on there, and highlight the letters with a different color, probably a dark color, like I said earlier, probably black. One thing I'll mention about using these angle grinders with that cup wheel, and I do talk about it in a little while here, but you're not going to be able to hear me, so I'm just going to talk over the video, is I like to use those cup wheels with a angle grinder that has a paddle switch on it. It's a long switch that you got to press this little safety latch and then squeeze the paddle. And that way, if the wheel catches on anything on an edge and it starts to come out of your hand, and I hold things pretty light-handed nowadays because gripping, squeezing things tightly don't do my hands any good. So I have a loose grip on there. And that can be a little bit more dangerous because it could, if it catches on an edge, it could flip the grinder out of your hand. And with the paddle switch, once it does that, the power is automatically shut off then because you're not squeezing the switch down anymore. A lot of my grinders just have an on-off switch. And I had, years ago, I had one of those cup wheels in a grinder that just had an on-off switch on it, and I was doing just what I'm doing here. And the edge of the wheel or the brush caught on an edge of the piece I was working on and flipped that thing towards my t-shirt, and that thing just crawled right up my t-shirt like an alien gremlin really fast. It happened in a split second. Tore up my belly. This was years ago, so no scars, no lasting scars, but yeah, it was quite a start. So here I'm grinding this, and when you grind this old paint off, when there's a lot of filler under there especially, it gets really kind of warm to the touch, and it actually kind of doesn't really fling the paint off. It kind of melts it almost. Gets kind of gummy. So what I'm doing is just putting grooves in it at times to kind of divide up the little spaces. Gives my hands and arms a little break too from giving the same amount of pressure in the same way, in the same direction. Kind of switches that up for me. And that also breaks up what has to be removed, so you're not constantly in contact with it. You have some paths that you're crossing over that you already removed the material, so it tends to stay cooler, doesn't gum up as easily. Yeah, I'm already feeling it in my arms and hands, hanging on to that thing. I'm still going to try and do the other side. But getting right underneath the dovetail, yeah, there was a lot of paint all smeared under there. That came off pretty quickly. A lot of these castings, they don't really grind the high spots off. They just put a lot of filler on there, so they fill up to the high spot instead of grinding down the low spots and starting from that point, starting from the lowest possible point to get a nice level surface, nice flat surface, I should say. So when I get all this filler and all this paint off of there, I'm going to grind down the high spots and start putting my filler on there to fill in the roughness of the casting before I get some paint on there. Going around these areas here with that badge that's in the middle there, I'm trying to stay off of that, and of course that shop tag too. I don't want to round over the letters any more than what they already are. Yep, I'm feeling in my hand there. Probably should be quitting right here. So I don't want to grind on those small letters because it will just round them over, and I already started to file them flat, so I have a nice flat surface. So when I dab on some contrasting paint colors, the letters will really pop. But here I'm explaining about the different grinders and the paddle switch versus the on-off switch. Yep, that's where the grinder zipped up, right up my shirt on the outside, but the bristles it was a coarse brush, and it dug right through my shirt and really ripped my belly up good. Wasn't fun. Had a painful first night, that's for sure. I'm gonna give it the roll over, switch around, get to work on the other side. Oh, that's actually the bigger letters there on that side. The reason I'm narrating over this just because the wind was so loud, and I do have neighbors that are close by me there. So I'm trying to talk softly enough so they don't think somebody's in their backyard carrying on a conversation, but loud enough to get over the wind, and it didn't really work out. So that's why I'm kind of narrating over this. Okay, getting going on this side here. Same thing, different side. Zipping right underneath the dovetail on that side as well, where there's a lot of paint, and filler underneath there is pretty thick, but it came off pretty easily, so no worries there. Here I am kind of using the corner like of the brush a little bit, just trying to cut some paths in there so it reduces the heat as I'm removing material. The very end of the wire and in the brush is what removes the material, or removes the most material. When you start to use the sides, it's much less effective, kind of like a paintbrush. Less effective spreading the paint using the side of the bristles rather than the tips. Yep, I'm getting tired. Been tired. Probably should have quit before this. Good thing I got a paddle. I'd speed this up, but I'm kind of new to video making, so I'm not exactly sure on how to speed it up. And I'm switching video editing apps, so I'm starting to learn a new one here. I was just using YouTube Studio, which is pretty basic. So now I'm using Splice. It has more options, more things, and it's easier to use so far. This is the first video I'm using it on. And this is the first video I have a separate mic. And I have it clipped, because of the type of shirt I have it clipped near one of my shoulders, and I found out that that's part of the audio problem with this video as well. So the rest of the videos with this bench center will be better. I'll get the mic in more the correct place, right in the middle of your chest. I didn't want to clip it up on my collar because I thought it'd be rubbing on my neck with this type of shirt. So I clipped it near my shoulder, and sometimes it's a little louder, sometimes it's softer, so it's not very good quality. But plugging through here. You guys can put up with my noviceness till I get better at things. Should be more enjoyable. more pleasurable to watch and listen. I think this is the side with the shop tag and the smaller lettering that I was filing on while I was in the shop trying to figure out what Providence was. After I get this side done, you'll see in the video that I'm trying to knock the drive screws out from the inside. The holes are drilled all the way through, which is fortunate. I was only able to knock one of them out right away. A second one, it felt slightly loose, and then the other two didn't budge at all. I didn't feel any looseness as I was trying to knock them out. And what I was using was just a very small old Allen wrench. I save a lot of the old Allen wrenches for cutting them off, and yeah, look at me, I'm getting tired. Past tired, really. For getting in tight spaces, or for getting into areas like this where you can't really get a hammer in there with a punch and drive them out. So the short little Allen wrench can get in there, and you'll have something to hold on to. And it's a hex, it's not round, so it's a little easier to hold on to with your fingertips. And it's too small of an area to get vice grips in there to hold on to it, and the hammer, and do all the swinging. So just about done with this side. And then you'll see that I trying to get the other drive pin to loosen up. I put some heat on there, not for expanding purposes, to expand a certain area to make the pins looser, but just to burn out the paint and any crud that's in there, and some old crusty grease. If you can just burn it and dry it up, get it hot so it like crystallizes, then you can take say a piece of brass and a hammer and just kind of pound around the drive screw, not on the head of it, but around the head. Kind of shock the area around there. It knocks that grittiness that's down in there, knocks it loose, makes it easy to drive them out. Taking a break here. I think my back was getting a little sore too. Leaning over. I got the tallest sawhorses they make, so out of that style anyway. I need a lift outside, I guess, in the dirty area outside, so I can have multiple heights to save my back. And my air compressor from my shop is down. I just picked up a new pressure switch for it today. I've replaced a couple pressure switches, say in the last year, and the last one I replaced the same type, same model or whatever. That one only lasted maybe 2 months, so you can't even buy that one anymore at that store. And they actually went with a square D one now, but it was special order only. They don't stock them in the store, so I had a special order, and I just picked that up tonight. So I'll have an air hose out there to blow out some of those cavities so I can better see what's left. And that's an area in the end there, both ends, where you just got to use the side of the brush, the side of the bristles, to try to get the paint off, because you just can't get it at at it any other way. I think I'm past being done, but I keep going. I think I spent maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes on this. Okay, this is the bigger letters. It says brown and Sharpe, so now I'm cleaning up those more. Getting the paint off immediately around the lettering and in between the lettering. That was around the lettering. Now I'm using just the tips of the bristles, almost the corner of the wheel, getting in between the larger lettering. Phew. Yep, I remember. My back's screaming at me. And my arms are screaming at me. They're saying, stop, stop, don't do any more. That's what it looks like so far. There is a lot of filler in there that got to come off, but that was just done. Did me in. I'm just basically explaining what I've already explained. This is the tag that's going to get removed with the drive pins in it. If you guys got any other ideas about getting the drive pins out? Now the drive pins in that green rectangle there are actually flathead. I've never worked with flathead drive screws, drive pins, whatever you want to call them. They've always been pan-shaped or round-headed. And they're recessed, so you can't even grind a slot in there. Sometimes I grind a slot in there with a Dremel, with a cutoff wheel and a Dremel. Grind a slot in there so I can get a screw in there or get a punch on it to try to spin it. So that's not an option here. Pretty tight. Just my hand fits in there. Can't really get a half a swing on the hammer there. That's one of the tools, that ball peen hammer I've had. Jeez, I've had that thing probably. See, how old am I? Almost 50 years. No, 45 years. To go dig up the torch. It wasn't in my shop. My wife had it out by the grill. She uses it for starting the gas grill because the igniters don't always ignite the burner. So I'm just heating it up, trying to do like I said earlier, just trying to crystallize the material that's in there. Any hard grease or paint or anything like that, to try to make it a dry, crystal brittle environment as far as the crud that's around the drive pin. And I do give up on it here after trying to knock on it a couple times. Those other areas to the left and right that look like, oh, I don't know, upside down pieces of bread with the rounded top. And there's shorter ones out near the ends. What those are for is they use that when they have a fresh casting and they first cut the feet, the toes that I've been calling them, the toes, the feet, whatever. They cut those and then they cut those, I believe, cut those on the side. So they turn it 90 degrees.